the single point of light, still there. No one else speaks. I want to ask you something that most people spend their entire lives not asking. No one else speaks. What is happening in your brain right now as you watch this? No one else speaks. But there is a moment when all of that activity stops, or perhaps more accurately, when it surges one final extraordinary time before it stops. What does the brain do in the seconds before death? No one else speaks. Not what happens after death, I cannot tell you that. But what the brain does in its last moments, this we are beginning to understand. And what we are finding is one of the most extraordinary things in all of neuroscience. No one else speaks. Death is not a moment. Death is a process, a cascade, a sequence of failures that propagates through the body and the brain over seconds, minutes, and sometimes hours. For most of human history, death was defined by the cessation of breathing and heartbeat. But modern medicine has complicated this. We can restart stopped hearts. The heart stopping is not, by itself, irreversible. The current standard in most of the world is brain death, the irreversible cessation of all brain function, including the brainstem. No one else speaks. But brain death itself is a process. The brainstem does not go silent instantaneously. Different regions fail to see the moment the heart stops and the moment the brain finally goes silent, something extraordinary occurs. There are two primary contexts in which scientists have studied the dying brain: cardiac arrest and resuscitation producing near-death experiences, and direct EEG monitoring of dying brains. No one else speaks. Both lines of research have produced findings that challenge our assumptions about what consciousness is and when it ends. Near-death experiences. The reports of people who were clinically dead, heart stop, no measurable brain activity, and who describe, often with great clarity, experiences they had during that period. These reports have been collected across cultures, across centuries, across vastly different medical contexts, and they share a core set of features with a consistency that is scientifically deeply interesting. The consistency of NDE reports do not pay itself with by itself. This is not interpretation about what it happens to is key not one's after real. In 1991, a woman named Pam Reynolds underwent surgery for a brain aneurysm that required standstill operation. Her brain artery was drained of blood. Her EEG went completely flat. By every available medical measure, she was clinically dead for approximately 45 minutes. No one else speaks. During this period, she reported a detailed, vivid experience. She described floating above her body. She accurately described specific surgical equipment, including an unusual bone saw she had never seen before that was subsequently no one else speaks. The Pam Reynolds case is among the most studied in NDE research because it was conducted under conditions maximally hostile to any neurological explanation. There was, apparently, no brain activity during her reported experience. There are possible conventional explanations. None of them is entirely satisfactory. The case remains genuinely puzzling. In 2014, Sam Parnia and colleagues published the largest and most rigorously designed study of near-death experiences to date. 2060 cardiac arrest patients, 15 hospitals, UK, US, Austria. Most significantly, the study included hidden targets, images placed on high shelves in resuscitation rooms, visible only from above. Of 2060 patients, one had a part of space. Parnia's conclusion was scientifically appropriate. Some form of awareness may occur during cardiac arrest, in a period when the brain should not be capable of generating conscious experience by conventional understanding. No one else speaks. The second hypothesis. Dimethyltryptamine, DMT, is a powerful psychedelic produced endogenously in the human brain. Research has documented that the hypothesis, under the extreme stress of dying, the brain floods itself with DMT. The last trip is endogenous. The third mechanism, and perhaps the most neurophysiologically grounded, is the surge hypothesis, which we will explore in detail, because this is where the most extraordinary research lives. In 2013, a team led by Jimo Borgin at the University of Michigan published a study that sent ripples through neuroscience. They recorded the brain activity of rats undergoing cardiac arrest. They expected a gradual decline in brain activity as oxygen failed, a slowdown, a quieting, a fade to silence. No one else speaks. In the 30 seconds following cardiac arrest, the period immediately after the heart stopped and oxygen began to fail, the rats' brains surged left to 7 times higher than normal waking consciousness. The surge lasted approximately 30 seconds. It was not just intensity, but organization. The neural pattern showed signatures of coordinated processing associated with conscious experience. In 2023, a landmark study extended Borgigin's findings to humans. Published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, 4 comatose patients who died during the study. In 2 of the 4 patients, the researchers observed the same phenomenon, a surge of gamma wave activity in the seconds following cardiac arrest. In these 2 patients, the surge occurred specifically in the temporoparietal junction. The patients were comatose, they were dying, their hearts stopped, and in the seconds after their heart stopped, the regions of their brains most associated with the feeling of being a conscious self in a body produced their most intense activity. The researchers were explicit. This finding does not prove that the patients were having conscious experiences. Consciousness is not directly measured, and this uncertainty neural activity. What it does suggest, and I find this personally extraordinary, it is something finding active. Something that looks in its neural signature more like a peak of functioning than a failure. Why does this happen? 1. Cascade failure. Inhibitory neurons fail first, excitatory neurons fire uncontrolled. Noise, not signal. We do not know which, if any, of these is correct. What we know is that the surge is real, and that it is the most fascinating neurophysiological phenomenon currently being studied. No one else speaks. Of all the features of near-death experiences, the one I find most neurobiologically interesting is the life review, the panoramic, rapid replay of one's entire life. The life review is described as simultaneous rather than sequential, accompanied by intense emotion, not merely watching life but rehearse life, and often experiencing the emotional content. The hippocampus, under conditions of extreme neural excitation, can fire massively and simultaneously. The hyposearch on hippocampal seizures has documented massive hippocampal firing, autobiomemories. No one else speaks. If the surge produces extreme neural excitation, and the EEG data suggests it does, then the subjective experience of that period might be vastly longer than in the seconds it has at the hour. There is a clinical phenomenon called terminal lucidity that I want to discuss because it is both scientifically interesting and deeply humanly meaningful. Terminal lucidity has been reported in the clinical literature for over 2 centuries, documented by hundreds of cases since, a formal research program now collecting them systematically. The most puzzling aspect, advanced Alzheimer's, the neural architecture required for the observed lucidity is, according to structural imaging, severely collapsing, apparently died. I am not reaching beyond the data here. I am stating the data accurately. Terminal lucidity occurs, we cannot explain it. And the fact that when explained it is scientifically significant. No one else speaks. I want to think about time for a moment, specifically about 1 second. No one else speaks. And in the final seconds of life, if the surge hypothesis is correct, the brain is operating at 5 to 7 times its normal capacity, the density of priest it has been in a lifetime. I need to say something about the hard problem of consciousness, because any honest discussion of the dying brain must acknowledge it. No one else speaks. Why does subjective experience exist at all? Why, given a brain with particular neural activity, is there something it is like to be that brain is, as of today, it unbrained? This matters for the dying brain question because it means we cannot, even in principle, infer from neural activity alone whether experience is occurring. It does not tell us whether experience accompanies it. We know the surge is real. We know it involves the regions of self and memory and experience. We know NDEs are real phenomena with consistent features and occasional verifiable content. No one else speaks. And for the last question, what happens after the brain finally goes dark? Science has no answer. Not a negative answer, not a positive answer. No one else speaks. The research on the subjective experience of dying in palliative care settings has found that the majority of natural deaths express pain frightening in their final phase. Of the thousands of NDE reports in the research literature, the vast majority describe the experience as the most peaceful, most beautiful, most the experience of their lives. There is a finding from palliative care neuroscience that I find both practically important and deeply moving. In a 2020 study, Elizabeth Ballone and colleagues found that persisted significantly longer than clinical signs of awareness. Hearing appears to be the last sense to fail. A person who appears unconscious in their final hours may still be hearing the voices of the people in the room with them. No one else speaks. The expressions, the pleadings of conscience, the permissions granted be heard. The brain may be processing them even when no response speaks. I want to mention the emerging research on psychedelic-assisted end-of-life care. A series of clinical trials at Johns Hopkins, NYU, and Imperial College London have administered psilocybin to patients. A single dose of psilocybin produced lasting reductions in depression, anxiety, and fear of death in approximately 80% of participants, effects that persisted for months after most meaningful of their lives. Psilocybin may be giving people a preview of the neural state the dying brain produces naturally, the fear of death reduced by making its neurochemistry familiar. The Stoics practiced memento mori, the deliberate daily contemplation of death. Modern psychology has found empirical support, greater life satisfaction, people who regulate less fear of death. Deathbed visions, experiences in which dying people report seeing deceased relatives, are reported approximately 50 to 60% of dying patients in attentive palliative care settings. Let me be precise about what we know. The dying brain in its final seconds surges. The surge involves the regions most associated with what should happen to a brain deprived of experience. Near-death experiences are real phenomena. Real in the sense that people genuinely have them, they are consistent across cultures, and in a small infallible number of cases they include verifiable and accessible. We do not know whether the surge is accompanied by experience. We do not know the mechanism. We do not know what, if anything, happens after the brain's electrical activity finally ceases. Is there consciousness after death? The honest answer is, we don't know. Not we're pretty sure it's no, not the evidence suggests yes, we genuinely do not. No one else speaks. Is consciousness identical to its neural correlates? Or is consciousness something that the neural activity generates or enables, and what enables only persists beyond the non-neural substance? The most intellectually honest position, the dying brain produces its most intense, most organized, most experientially of a lifetime. What happens after the stopping? whether the stopping is merely a pause, whether it is the end of the show, whether it is a transition to something our current science has no conceptual tools to investigate. If the brain draws on what is stored in its final surge, if the content of that experience depends on the life that was lived, then the richness of the final moments depends on the richness of what came before. No one else speaks. The Stoics were right for the wrong reasons. The contemplation of death clarifies life not because we fear it, but because the life we live is also the material of our dying. No one else speaks. The sand runs. Every second of this, the neurons firing, the electrochemical cascades, the sense of you watching this. No one else speaks. Follow the signal all the way to its end. No one else speaks. Oh, one more thing. No one else speaks. About the REM intrusion hypothesis in more detail. REM's flag temporal braids defaultly attacking temporal cyst when the intensest temporal suprally acting. Evidence for the REM intrusion hypothesis includes the similar phenomenology of vivid dreams and NDEs, both involving spatial flight, emotional intensity, encounters with people, temporal distortion. The limitation of the REM hypothesis, it does not explain the verifiable, accurate out-of-body observations reported in some cases. No exist. About the endogenous DMT hypothesis in more detail, Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico conducted the first legally approved human research on DMT in decades in the 1990s. Speaks. Strassman's participants consistently described the DMT experience as more real than ordinary reality, not as a hallucination, but as a perceivably of greater density and significance. The limitation of the DMT hypothesis, we do not yet have direct evidence that endogenous DMT is released in sufficient quantities during human dying to produce these effects. No one else speaks. The field of NDE research has been complicated by the difficulty of defining clinical staining death dress precisely enough for rigorous study. Different studies use different criteria. One of the most striking findings across NDE research is the transformation of values and outlook reported by NDE survivors. The common cluster of changes: dramatic resist, a reduced fear of death. The value transformation following NDEs is so consistent and well documented that it has become a research domain in its own right. Bruce Grayson at the University of Virginia has studied NDE after effects for decades. What about gamma waves in more detail? Gamma oscillations, brainwaves in the 30 to 100 Hz range, peaking around 3 Hz, are associated in the human brain in proprioception and what is called binding. If gamma waves are the neural signature of unified conscious experience, and the dying brain surge is characterized by intense, organized gamma activity, like no one else speaks. The question of what the surge contains, what specific experiences, if any, are generated by this gamma activity is one that may never be answerable through conventional neuroscience alone. About the physiology of cardiac arrest in relation to the brain. When the heart stops, the brain has approximately 10 to 15 seconds of residual oxygen before consciousness is lost, in the conventional sense. No one else speaks. The timing of the surge is crucial for understanding NDEs. If the surge occurs in the 30 seconds after cardiac arrest, and if the time dilation mechanism is operating, about cultural variation in NDEs. While the core features are consistent, cultural context shapes the interpretation in some features. Western NDEs represent Jesus or angels as the encountered beings. This cultural variation has two interpretations. The conventional, the universal features reflect common human neurobiology, while the culturally specific features, one of the most challenging findings in NDE research, blind NDE reports. Kenneth Ring and Sharon Cooper documented NDEs in 21 blind individuals. The blind NDE cases are among the most difficult to explain by conventional neuroscience. If the experience is generated by the visual cortex, explanations require how are people who had sectional phase planned. I want to address the survival hypothesis directly, because intellectual honesty requires it. The survival hypothesis that conscious experience survives the death of the physical brain, no one else speaks. The survival hypothesis does not require the abandonment of neuroscience or the acceptance of any particular religious framework. In its most sophisticated form, its hypothesis is simply, I neither endorse nor dismiss the survival hypothesis. I note that the evidence base, the consistency of NDEs, the veridical out-of-body observation about meaning at end of life. The work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, while its specific stage model has been critiqued, established the central importance of meaning-making in the dying process. Recent research on meaning at end of life by Arnie Kors and colleagues has found that the sense of life's meaning and completeness in the final months, not religious belief, not the resolution of symptoms. This finding connects directly to the surge research. If the dying brain's final surge draws on what is there, on the neural networks encoding a lifetime of experience, about the neuroscience of the palliative care environment. The research on dying in different care environments shows that the setting of death has significant neurophysiological effects. Hospital dying, no one else speaks. The presence of familiar voices, touch, and scent activates the oxytocin system and reduces cortisol. The hospice model is neurobiologically correct. No one else speaks. About last words and last communications, the linguistic capacity tends to fade in a different sequence from other capacities. Often, the ability to produce language and apparent ability to understand it.
No one else speaks.
It's okay to go.
Their practice and tell me any person that it is all right to go, that they are beloved at those things tolerate.
The scientific study of NDEs has a complex history. For decades, it was marginalized. The work of Raymond Moody, Kenneth Ring, Michael Sabom, Pim van Lommel, Bruce Graysons. This shift in scientific respectability is itself significant. It represents the willingness of science to engage seriously with phenomena that are inconvenient, that do not fit neatly into existing. The science of consciousness is undergoing a paradigm shift. Neural correlates are important but insufficient. The hard problem remains, and phenomena like NDEs and terminal lucidity suggest our current framework may be incomplete. Integrated information theory, proposed by Giulio Tononi, attempts to quantify consciousness by measuring the degree of integrated information in a system, quantity called phi. I find this possibility that the dying brain may briefly achieve its maximum degree of consciousness, both whatever that means. Cetaceans, whales and dolphins, are known to die in ways that suggest some awareness of dying. They often strand themselves. Other cetaceans sometimes accompany dying individuals, staying close, no one else speaks. Elephants demonstrate behaviors consistent with awareness of death, investigating dead conspecifics with their trunks, sometimes returning to the bones of dead family members over years. The neuroscience of dying has ethical implications that I want to acknowledge. If hearing persists until late in the dying process, then the environment of dying, what is said and not. Similarly, if terminal lucidity occurs, if people with advanced dementia can in their final hours become lucid and reconnect with family even when connection or communication is impossible. And if the dying brain's final experience is shaped by the life it has stored, if the quality of the final surge depends on the richness of what has been loved and dealt. A practical note informed by the neuroscience.
I love you, I am here.
Be present, touch them, say
No one else speaks.
The phrase permission to go, telling a dying person that you will be all right, that they can let go, appears in multiple palliative care traditions independently. The fact that it appears cross-culturally, and we can get about quantum theories of consciousness and dying. Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have proposed a theory, orchestrated objective reduction, in which consciously universes self. Hameroff has suggested comes part of the broader quantum concept of unitive death. He is careful to distinguish this from claims to does not. The Penrose-Hameroff theory is controversial and unproven, but it represents a serious attempt by serious physicists and anesthesiologists to extend the framework of physics to include consciousness. I want to say something personal. I have been a neuroscientist for many years. I have spent those years studying the most extraordinary object in the known universe, the human brain. Not because I have answers. I have fewer answers about this topic than about any other I study, but because the questions it forces are the most important ones. I don't know. I suspect no one does. But I think the not knowing is itself important. The willingness to sit with the uncertainty, to look at the dying brain surge and sapping something is happening that no one else speaks. It is given honest evidence that the dying process stances involves not a fade to the silence, but a surge of extraordinary neural activity. It has told us that hearing persists, that touch matters, that the words we say and the way we say them may reach a brain that can no longer respond but may still receive. This is a gift. It is no one else speaks. The research continues. Jimo Borjagin's group is extending the surge studies to larger human samples. Sam Parnia has launched Aware 2 with more sophisticated programs in the Dell species. And as our instruments improve, as we develop better ways of measuring neural activity at death, better methods for studying NDE survivors, better understanding of the relationship between neural activity and subjective about the language we use for dying. The medicalization of death has given us a vocabulary, cardiac arrest, brain death, organ failure, that is precise but strips the suspense. The phrase passed away, which we use to soften the vague death, the dying bias is bad bird sounds. Hearing lie, perhaps away physicists also feign blastas already. This is not a reason to seek an NDE, but it is a significant finding about what NDEs contain, and Feynman ins Pernscheid, no one else speaks. About what children report. Children who have NDEs, and they do, proportionally as often as adults, report the same core features with certain interesting differences. This finding, that the content of the NDE draws on the experiential history of the individual, is consistent with the hippocampal surge hypothesis. The surge releases what is there. What children have less speaks. About the relationship between NDEs and meditation. Experienced meditators who have NDEs, or who are in the later stages of life and practice dying preparation meditations. The correspondence between ancient contemplative traditions' descriptions of dying and the modern NDE research literature is not proof that either is correct, but it is remarkable. A note on grief and the NDE research. Many bereaved people have found the NDE research, the consistency of reports. This is not false comfort. The research base for the peaceful dying experience in cardiac arrest is genuine, and in the absence of certainty about what happens after death, the evidence that the process of dying is no one else speaks. About the implications of the surge for our understanding of consciousness more broadly. If gamma synchronization at levels 5 to 7x above normal leg, if this reptilian from studying the waking brain alone. The dying brain as a laboratory for consciousness research is a provocative idea, but it is scientifically legitimate. Extreme conditions, seizures, psychedelic states, sleep, anesthesia have taught us important things about how. A final point about the science-religion interface on this topic. The neuroscience of dying does not settle the question of whether there is life after death. It cannot. The hard problem of consciousness means no one else speaks. And that, I think, is the most important contribution of this science to human culture. Not an answer, yes. A question that has been properly reopened where no one else speaks. What do I personally believe? I am a scientist. I try to follow the evidence. And the evidence tells me something the extraordinary haddles do not investigate. No one else speaks. The hourglass. The sand runs. Every grain that falls is a second of washes. They are the past. The sand is norking this not wasted. It sand is normer and wants the world. And when the last grain falls, what the dying brain does with it may be the extraordinary thing it has ever done. It's persistent science and beyond the hourglass. This is the question that science cannot yet answer it. Or it may, with better tools and braver questions, find a way. Speaks. I want to close with a line from the poet Rainer Maria Rilke from his Letters to a Young Poet. He wrote, "We must assume our existence as there. The science has found it. Assume your existence as broadly as you can. Follow every signal, including the ones that lead to questions you cannot answer. Live in such a way that the dying brain has rich material to work with." That is what the neuroscience says. And it is enough. No one else speaks. Follow the signal all the way to its end. No one else speaks. Lant. No one else speaks. Credits. The Hourglass. The Lab. No one else speaks. Dr. Eliad's Shelves. Books on consciousness, dying, neuroscience. No one else speaks. The hourglass on the desk, full circle, still running. No one else speaks. The cold tea. Always cold, still there, still him. No one else speaks. The lab wide. Everything we know now, no one else speaks. One more thing about the rats. After the surge in Borgigan studied 30 seconds of gamma activity, the brain went quiet. Not the surge, something quieter, a prolonged period of very low level but organized activity. We don't know what that phase is. We don't know if it's meaningful. It may be artifact, it may be the last embers of a dying system, or it be something else entirely. I find this, the unexplained third phase, somehow comforting. Not because I know what it means, but because it means the story is not over. There is still something to find out. There is always something more to find out. That, to me, is the best possible news. A single point of light. No one else speaks. Still there. No one else speaks. The end. No one else speaks. Credits roll over darkness and the single point of light. No one else speaks. Research credits: Jimo Borgigan, Sam Parnia, Rajanikant Srinivasan, Bruce Grayson, Elizabeth Blunden. In memory of all those whose dying has taught us something about living. No one else speaks. AXON with Dr. Ely. No one else speaks. Follow the signal. No one else speaks. Ah, no one else speaks. End carb, EP.01, EP06.